Hi, everyone. Kartik Krishna are here for Beyond the 90 and Beyond the Boundary from the pavilion on Beyond the Boundary because we have a crisis kind of beginning in sports where sports and politics are mixing. So we're going to be talking about both World Cups today that are happening, or both men's World Cups, senior men's World Cups that are happening this year, which is the FIFA World Cup here in the United States and North America, right? Canada and Mexico are co-hosts, kind of nominal co-hosts when it comes down to it. And the 2026 ICC T20 World Cup, where India is the host and Sri Lanka is kind of a nominal co-host, just done initially for political reasons. So why today are we having this conversation? Because there's a lot that's happened in the last week. Let's start with the cricket, where Bangladesh is out in a decision taken by the ICC, replaced by Scotland in the draw in that group, Group C, which includes England, the West Indies. So we're going to get an England-Scotland match, which is pretty exciting. Italy and Nepal is in that group also. So Group C, Scotland goes directly in, replaces Bangladesh. Scotland is the highest ranked team in the world rankings that had not qualified for the World Cup. In fact, got not only by Italy, who qualified from Europe, but by Jersey. Think about that one for a minute. So how competitive will Scotland be? Well, they've been competitive in the past in this competition, but plainly they didn't qualify this time. But that's not the point. This is a historic first that I think nobody associated with cricket actually wanted to see, unless you mix politics with cricket. And I think the official reasons that were given, which are security concerns that Bangladesh had traveling to India, did not check out in terms of what the ICC felt. They could not establish that there were credible threats to Bangladesh's security in India. Now, all of this is political because the bottom line is that the relationship between Bangladesh and India has broken down in the last year since Sheikh Hasina, who is from the founding family of Bangladesh, was deposed from leadership in Bangladesh, and she fled to India. And India is refusing to turn her over, extradite her to Bangladesh for trial and certain execution. So, this is all political. There are no credible security concerns that the ICC could ascertain. At the same time, there is already a provision in place where Pakistan gets to play all their matches in Sri Lanka, which is why Sri Lanka is a co-host, because Pakistan will not travel to India because of the tensions between those countries. And quite frankly, the domestic political situation in India has become more, I hate to use this term because it's a loaded term, but maybe I'm just trying to dumb it down for a largely American audience, Islamophobic, for lack of a better term. Hindu nationalism has spread through India like wildfire. So the ICC maintains that India is safe, and Bangladesh's refusal to play signals a new era where national pride and political considerations trump actual sporting competition for a nation, and a nation that did quite well in the last edition of this competition. Bangladesh were one of these stories, one of the surprise packages of the 2024 edition of this World Cup. And it's a very difficult pill to swallow if you're a cricket fan. Now let's cross the Atlantic, because I want to react to one of the podcasts I listen to regularly is the podcast hosted by former Labour flack, for lack of a better term, Alistair Campbell, who is a Burnley FC fan, so I give him credit for that. Labour Tony Blair flack, and former Conservative MP Rory Stewart, who is what we would call sort of a wet Tory, right? He was in the middle of the Tory party. He middle moderate. He's a guy that is very was opposed to Brexit, very kind of global worldview, very much into diplomacy. Was in the foreign service, but impressive guy. Now they're both of Scottish descent. This is where Stewart's Scottish. Campbell, obviously, the name says it all. So this is the first time Scotland has qualified for a World Cup since 1998. And basically, Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart are both talking about, should fans not go to the United States for this World Cup? And that has become a growing theme among the chattering classes in Europe, in Western Europe, about this World Cup. And I have to say, it predates Trump. I know everybody wants to blame Trump, and it has intensified because of President Trump. No question about that. But so much of this goes back to the fact that the United States, the distances between cities are great. FIFA did not do a good job of that. They selected host cities that are far away from one another, other than Boston and New York and Philly and Toronto. I guess those four are kind of clustered. Why you could argue it's tough to host tournaments in the U.S. You can host them in the Eastern U.S. or the Western U.S. or the Central U.S. I would be for an all-Texas World Cup personally. But they didn't do that. And then the lack of mass transit in American cities. I've heard this complaint for years. I agree with it. I happen to agree with it. If that makes me sound unpatriotic, I'm sorry. But getting around American cities is much more expensive than getting around European cities, and it's a lot less practical. So I think that's one of the things. But then there's also talk of President Trump introducing a so-called FIFA pass to expedite visa processing. And the president has rightly called this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to showcase America. But he has also put several countries on the current administration's expanded travel restrictions. Fans from 39 nations, including several nations that qualified, 15 nations that qualified, including Iran. I don't think we really want Iranian mullahs running around the U.S., okay? Haiti, which I personally don't like them being on the list, being a South Floridian and knowing the richness of the Haitian community, the richness culturally of the Haitian community down here, and the fact that they qualified against all odds. Haiti, Cote d'Ivoire, and the AFCON champion Senegal, who really disgraceful displays in that final. Although I see it both ways, because I think if you think. Okay, now I'm going to become political. If you think blacks have a hard time in the United States, try going to Morocco or Tunisia or Algeria. Try going to Arab countries. Try going to North Africa. So I kind of understand what happened with Senegal there. A lot of Arab people are incredibly racist towards black people. Incredibly racist towards everyone. There's a reason I personally, when I've gone to India and my family have, unlike my direct family, unlike most of the rest of my extended family, have avoided flying Middle Eastern carriers, even though that's very vogue to fly Emirates or fly Qatar or fly Etihad. Yeah, because I just don't. Okay, I don't want to get too deep into it. So let's wrap this up. So basically, a lot of this conversation in politics has been about the ICE situation, whether it's in Los Angeles or Minneapolis or Chicago or wherever. And there is public unrest, which is problematic. And we have things in history where sporting events have become incredibly political. The 78 World Cup was incredibly political. The 68 Olympics in Mexico City became very political with Tommy Smith's gesture of his hand up, which I think irked a lot of the American public. The 2010 World Cup in South Africa, I maintained this, and I've been attacked by a lot of people on the left for saying this, but I felt it was way too much. It was FIFA trotting out Nelson Mandela, who, by the way, I don't have the same level of respect for that so many others in the West do. I'm not defending apartheid. I wouldn't do that. But he was someone who gave up nonviolence for violence. And he got jailed because he was a violent terrorist. Martin Luther King, who gets compared to Mandela, never gave up nonviolence and was reared in nonviolence. I mean, to his detriment, he lost large portions of control of the movement, civil rights movement, because he wouldn't give up nonviolence. So they're not on the same level to me. It's just my opinion. But they made that excessively political, and now we know Infantino is palling around with Trump. So this is going to be political. There's no avoiding it, and that's unfortunate. And now we see the Cricket World Cup becoming political because, quite frankly, the ICC is who I think are doing a better and better job in governing cricket, by the way. I think I used to compare them to FIFA. I don't anymore. I think they're doing a more credible job. But the bottom line is, for them, they have two markets that are really critical to their success, which is the Australian market and the Indian market. And basically, if there's a conflict between India and another country, they're going to accommodate India. They accommodated India last year in the Champions Cup, allowing them to play their matches in Dubai while everybody else played in Pakistan. And that's actually the case with Pakistan this time. If Pakistan makes the final of the T20s, the final will be in Colombo. It will not be in Mumbai. So that's worth noting. But we have a situation in both the sports we cover at this site. And by the way, we're thinking of expanding our coverage further, depending on what our readers want. It's becoming political. So 2026, in 2026, the game is no longer about sporting competition. It's about politics. It's about money, because these events have to happen because of money. And the question, I think, unfortunately, is for both the cricket T20s and the World Cup, FIFA World Cup this summer, not only who will win, but who will be allowed to compete. Bangladesh hasn't been allowed to compete. Who will be allowed to attend? We don't know. And this is this is a serious concern. And will fans from Europe, from Western Europe, who are the fan bases, I have to admit, this is my cultural bias, I'm most concerned about, will they feel comfortable enough to travel to the United States and reproduce the atmospheres they've produced in the past? I think the Scottish fans, because it's been so long, will. If Ireland were to qualify through the playoffs, I think they will. I'm not sure about the masses of fan bases of other countries. And how much they'll travel within the U.S. Maybe they'll go to one match because, again, travel within the U.S. is very difficult, and FIFA has done nothing. I mean, I would not have any matches on the West Coast if I were FIFA. L.A., San Francisco, Seattle, Vancouver, gone. And then replace them with Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Charlotte, Nashville. And then you have a thing on the East Coast. Maybe Kansas City doesn't need to have matches either, or Dallas, but then you have the Mexico matches. So just the practicality, or you do the opposite. No New York, no Boston, no Toronto, no Philly. We could do the opposite. Go to Denver, go to Vegas, go to Phoenix. Oh, Vegas and Phoenix are hard in the summer, but you get my point. I think the travel is prohibitive. So anyway, you can subscribe to Beyond the 90 at beyondthe90.net. You can also subscribe to Beyond the Boundary via that. You can opt out of newsletters using your Substack portal. And you also, we would love to have you subscribe to these shows on YouTube. So we have the From the Pavilion Cricket Show on YouTube, which has just launched. And of course, all of our Beyond the 90 content on YouTube, on Substack, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.